Hello and welcome to the CIH podcast. I'm your host, Becky Fraser, and I'm the CIH Engagement Manager for the South East London and part of the East regions of the UK. I'm very happy to be here and to be joined by three of our regional group members. We've got Lauren Parrett, who is the Neighbourhood Manager at Vivid Homes in her day job, board member at Chichester Greyfriars Housing Association, and a trustee for Stop Domestic Abuse. We also have Hony Premlal, Chief Exec of Hony Premlal Consultancy, Chair of Eldon Housing, and also Wish London, and Vice Chair of Somerset Community Land Trust. Alongside all of those commitments, they're also active members of our South East and London regional group. We've also got Thomas Sutton, who is the Services Manager in the Neighbourhood and Housing Service at Gateshead Council, and he's the newly appointed lead of the North East Regional Group. In this episode, we'll be chatting through what being in one of our regional groups looks like, the work that they do, and how that can influence the wider sector. Also, with National Careers Week on our horizon, we'll also be talking about how our guests got to where they are, what their entry into the sector was, and what their journey has looked like since. Our regional groups are key parts of our structure, and they're one of the ways that we make sure that we're really understanding what's important to our members across the country. They help us to understand regional challenges and priorities so that we can make sure that we're adding local member value to our activities. But from regional group insiders, I would love to know what you found a regional group to be and what is it that they do from your experience?
So in my experience, hi everyone, I feel that it's a group of professionals who kind of provide feedback from those within the sector to the CIH and in reverse as well. So from the CIH back through to those within the sector.
Yeah, I've got a range of experiences being involved both in the board structure as it was 10 years ago when I was part of the CIH regional board in the Yorkshire and Humber, and as recently appointed to the regional lead of the Chartered Institute of Housing in the North East. I think that for me, what's great about the regional group is that you're in a situation where housing, as we've spoken about prior to the recording, it's a relentless sector to work in. And it's always getting harder. But the fact is when you've got a regional group consisting of members across the local geography within which you operate, it does give you that outlet, I suppose, to be able to run your problems past other people, understand how other people are dealing with the problems that you're facing, understand what it is that's affecting your region in particular, and try and structure the events program around that. So I think for me, it's a really fulfilling thing to be part of. Very, very early days in my sort of Northeast leadership role, but it's been great because straight away there was like near enough a dozen people who were just like, I want to be involved. I care about the professional body of the Chartered Institute of Housing. I want to see what I can do to provide a service to the members and increase membership in the region. And so it's I'm really enthused by the involvement of people so far and looking forward to what we might be able to deliver in future.
Okay, so yes, as being a chartered member of CIH, I'm always passionate about the work CIH does and how I can contribute. It's in terms of joining the group. Actually, it happened only last year, so I wish I could have joined much earlier, even though I was a chartered member. Since I joined, I realised the connection you make at local level, obviously, as Thomas and Lauren said about the professionals and bring that expertise on the local level, how we can influence that communication upwards and downwards as well. I remember when we had that last meeting, we talked about the latest budget and what the impact on the housing sector. So we all have different views on how that impacting. So then that can take into the CIH at the board level as well. I think it's really important to have local presence, because how many people can actually go to conference in Liverpool and things like that. So it's having, even though we got the regional conferences, it would be have regional events and things like that was really tailored to the needs as well. So I'm really looking forward to be part of that journey with CIH. I know I'm attending an event next week. We got the Choose Housing event, and then CIH Brighton as well, which I usually attend anyway. So it's really part of that community and helping them to shape and have that impact of the CIH mission of the professional organisation. So I'm quite looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, it is, as much as we talk about being part of your professional body as being part of that wider community of professionals, it's so valuable to have that at a much more local, smaller sort of regional context as well. Thomas, you mentioned, and I've mentioned as well, that you're new in post in the North as the North East Group Lead. I'd really like to hear how you're approaching that role, sort of how you're shaping the group, what you'd like to see your group achieve over the 3 or so years that you'll stay in that post, and sort of what kind of influence you want to have.
Yeah, so I'll be forever grateful for the previous interim lead, Crystal Hicks, who did a fantastic job in sort of steering the ship and making sure that the CIH Northern Housing Festival last October was a real success. So on taking the reins, obviously, like all sort of new leadership positions, you've got to sort of feel your way through it, I guess. But the good thing about this, the nature of the regional group, is that it's a voluntary thing. You know, people are there because they want to be involved. They are committed to the CIH membership. So as I say, like, being able to identify people who wanted to be part of the group, some people who were already a part of the group, as well as newer members, make sure that we're really clear on the terms of reference for the regional groups, understand what it's about, around how we increase, retain membership, play that fulcrum role between the central body and the local members, getting the buy-in. So as well, it's a big group. There's a dozen of us, nearly. So as a result, you've got to think around how, given everyone's day jobs being busy as they are, how do you structure it so all 12 people have a role to play, and it doesn't end up just being very dominated by the lead or whoever else, and everyone is playing that part. So as a result, the sorts of things we've done so far is just, trying to give it a bit of structure, subgroups of particular strands of work, whether it be social media activity, membership engagement, events planning. So we've got named people for all those sorts of activities, and so you're starting to see the outcomes of that already. So we all committed to doing like an online profile, which was circulated on LinkedIn, and just to trying to build up our social media presence again. Because I think looking at it, the CIH Northeast page hadn't been very well publicised because of over the past couple of years potentially. So just wanted to try and get more posts out on there, get a bit of a presence there, and make sure that people in the Northeast were aware of us. So there's been a lot of posts going out, like making sure people know who is in the group, a bit about their background, why they want to be part of the CIH group. We've got an in-person meeting next Wednesday, it is, where really we're going to start mapping out our clear events sort of timetable going forward, get to understand the demography of our membership a little bit better as well. I think when you are planning events, I think it's important to understand our target audience, and so we're going to have a real deep dive into our membership, understanding which organisations they work for, the levels of the organisation they're at, the areas of housing management that they sort of specialise in, just so we can make sure that the events that we plan aren't just what we would quite like, it's actually what would the membership as a whole really benefit from. So I'm really looking forward to getting that nailed down and getting it progressed. And obviously in the CIH Northeast we do have our annual Christmas quiz, which was really good fun. We had that in December, which was really, really good fun. We did it in partnership with the Wish as well, which is great. So you can see that sort of cross collaboration across the sector. So that's a little bit about how I've started trying to structure it, trying to get everyone involved, and I'm hoping that will really bear fruit over the next 12 months.
Brilliant, thank you. That sounds very busy. A busy role as a lead. Lauren and Hony, we've gone through a merger of the South East and London groups, sort of creating a super group in terms of the volume of members at least. What are your ambitions for this new group? And then I suppose also, what would you like to see for the sector as a whole, and how the regional group can sort of influence that?
I must say the strength is already showing since we merged. We have such a fantastic team come together. So the thing that I would like to say is obviously we meet the objectives of CIH is the professional body. We need to show our presence in the region, so people know we work in housing sector. This is our professional body, and getting a membership, I would say, especially with now qualification, and it's coming the standards as well, so it's really important how many people know CIH membership is good for their career development, professional development, getting that message across in different platforms wherever we're speaking, whether it's events or social media. I think that's one thing, increasing the membership. Secondly, as Thomas said, about understanding the needs, because it's obviously it's London and South East is a good and diverse mix. So really understand the members' needs and requirements. How can we cater that for? Obviously, looking at maybe some insights. And also understanding what events really required for this area, what collaboration we could do. Thomas mentioned about Wish. I'm also a chair of Wish London. We already talked about do an event with CIH, and Wish is all about collaborating, getting better outcomes for future. It's not about just CIH standing alone. So we will be looking more collaboration, more innovation. And the sector is going through massive challenges, financial strain everywhere. So how can we really reach out and help more? I know even CEOs, when I spoke to some of the CEOs, they don't have a membership. How do we convince those people, this is going to make a difference to your career? And, being a professional CIH is something, for me, I think it's something I put it everywhere, and I think that's what it's all about. It's a mark, you can say. So how do we get that message? Through this forum, I would say we are being ambassadors of CIH and getting that message as a professional body and increasing membership. And also the members, do they get the value out of it? How do we actually make sure they get the right value? And maybe looking at some surveys and satisfactions and see what do they like to see in what the outcomes, and how can we actually work better together with other organisations and collectively address those issues. Always say we can go far if we go with somebody rather than go on your own. So I think it's all about partnership, and I'm sure Lauren probably would have more ideas for us to take it forward as well.
Yeah, thanks, Hony. I think I agree with what you've said. I've been a regional member probably for less than 3 years, so it's still fairly new in this kind of role for me. But I think it's a fantastic group and something I'm really proud to be part of. And I think for me, I hope that we continue to kind of support each other with like new ways of working, promote qualifications in line with the professional standards and competencies, raise awareness in our local area and within our own organisations as well, to try and enhance the members and obtain more members, and make sure that those members are using their benefits correctly, because I know that there are a lot of benefits, and sometimes members don't know about them. So it's about promoting those, and being able to shape conferences such as Brighton. So being able to sort of input into that agenda, and then listen to the feedback and then shape and improve that like year on year is really beneficial. I found it really useful to be part of that. And I think the main thing as well is promoting housing as a career. So like we've done some meetings with our students and events for our students, and I think it's really about kind of teaching people what housing is, because it's not something that you necessarily find or learn about at school. So yeah, I think that's key to promote housing as a career as well.
Brilliant, thank you.
Can I come in there, like, just to say, I think I think Lauren is dead right there, like around the and Hony as well, because I think that there's opportunities almost at both ends of the sort of career spectrum, if you like. I think the need to promote housing as a career, and obviously we'll probably go into the Choose Housing campaign and some of the things that we're able to do as regional groups to contribute towards that. But I think Hony's right around, like, at the top end of some of our organisations, there is like an abundance of senior leaders, chief executives who probably may not view themselves through that prism of as a housing professional. And I think there's obviously been like some difficult times over the past few years, some tragedies that have meant that we've had to really nail down that we are a profession. What we do, it is a discrete set of knowledge, of skills, of expertise, and we need to sort of solidify that, and that's obviously where the competence and conduct standard comes in. But I do think there is something about how do we as regional groups get some of the senior leaders in the sector throughout a range of organisations to recognise themselves as housing professionals and see the value of it. So I think but there's opportunities there, because I think if we can, and obviously the regulations are almost going to force people down this path anyway, but I think if we can get the senior leaders of organisations to value being part of a professional body, then that will create obviously good momentum, I think, when it comes to developing CIH membership and sort of relevance for people in their day-to-day work. So yes, there's definitely some real big opportunities ahead, I think, for professionalisation and for the growth of the regional groups and the memberships that tie into that.
I think Lauren mentioned about choosing as a career. It's one of the things I'm currently doing is working with London Met University, where I did my MBA, and they have housing qualifications. So they've been asking to come and talk at their conferences the last 2 years. So I was really lucky. Go and tell them how amazing the work the housing sector is doing, and being proud to be working in the sector for the last 30 years. And these are the jobs I have done. And this is all about, and like Lauren said, and Thomas also said, people don't know the real work is happening. So now I managed to find 2 G15 housing associations to take some interns and apprentices through the program. So I'm trying to make that connection with the London Met University with my CIH and Wish hat on. So obviously both organisations get more women into, or more young people into housing. I think that that's in line with the Choose Housing as the agenda as well. So I think it's all in that mission. We are in this together.
Brilliant, thank you, Hony. I'm actually going to London Met Uni tomorrow to deliver a guest speaker slot on the importance of professionalism in the housing sector. So that's quite a nice tie-in. I actually did have a question about the Choose Housing campaign. You've possibly all already answered it. Those were incredibly eloquent answers. But I sort of wondered, how are you as groups already? How are you sort of tying your group activities back to this year's presidential campaign? And also, I mean, Hony, you've sort of spoken there in quite specific detail, but it is also one of our organisational goals is to ensure that the housing sector is recognised and valued, that it is seen as that career of choice. What steps do you think we need to take as on that local level as regional groups to sort of further that goal?
Definitely. I am going to the event next week. Peabody hosting an event, so I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be talking, because I'm going to do a bit of public speaking and podcast and things like that myself. So I'm going to do the campaign around Choose Housing to support Ellie's campaign, and it's not just for this year. It's the Housing Forever. So it's that message. It's not just this year's campaign. I think a lot of the time we stay a campaign for a year and then forget the mission. So I think this is a campaign. We need to have it a long-term mission until we have that message got into everyone. Because I have 2 daughters, so whenever their daughters friends ask them, oh, what do you do, Dad? So obviously it's easier to say he works in this railway and this is what he does. And what's your mum does? She works at Housing Association. And then they said, oh, what's that? What's the Housing Association? And then she probably had to say, they both had to say 10 things to really say what actually I do. And that shows this lack of understanding young people. Oh yeah, it's a council. Then that is also, the people don't know the difference. So it's a massive raising awareness. I think that's all of us has to do. So through our regional group, that's one of the things I'm committed to do, is making sure we have this conversation, keep going in our schools, universities, and even places where we can reach out and getting that message. And also stories. One of the things I'm also doing a roundtable at the moment is care and support, and did a session today about recruitment and retention, and next month that is about amplifying voices. So I'm going to be getting a lot of clients or customers come and talk about their stories, how they actually changed their life being in. One of them is one of our residents, so it's an 80-year-old coming from our sheltered house, how her living in a sheltered home had changed their life. And it's about listening to those stories. I think stories are a powerful way of making changes. So that's something I'm passionate about. And obviously as a group, we will be looking and see how we can amplify those voices. And I think that will inspire a lot more people. It's a bit like Fire Force and police and things like that. You see in those ads comes and say how you people, and then young children want to work there, isn't it? Also doctors or nurses. And we want to create the same mission for us. Young people want to say, yeah, I want to join housing. I know this is the impact they can do. That's what I think.
I think, Hony, you're bang on there. There's a sort of big piece around being able to reconnect social housing, or the image of social housing, with the social purpose that it kind of came from, and making sure that is still, to people outside of the sector, still that connection is there.
I think Hony really nicely summarises the challenges there we've got around awareness of the housing sector as a career path. As a regional group, we have had Ellie come to present at one of our meetings, and we've all sort of made commitments that we will go away and attend sort of careers affairs and school events and things like that. So I was at one a couple of weeks ago where, yeah, you can see the challenge trying to get people to comprehend what the housing sector is. And so I think you're right, there's definitely going to have to be a long-term campaign that we can't take we're sort of foot off the gas on. But I do think, like you say, Becky, I do think there are a lot of opportunities there, because I think there will be a lot. We've got big challenges in the housing sector. We need the brightest really to come and help solve some of the problems, or manage some of the issues that we face on a day-to-day basis when we're operating within a housing crisis. And so, but I think there will be a lot of idealistic people coming out of school, coming out of university, who will want to do something that has a bit of social purpose. So I do think we've got a good angle there if we can target it right. And I do think there are some success stories out there on how things have been how we have managed to make progress in this area. So I know personally I came into housing through the GEM programme many years ago now, but I know it's still going from strength to strength with new cohorts of people at the outset of their housing career coming together to do events to sort of identify the social challenges and solutions that we need in order to be able to combat those. So I do think there are programs out there, and if you look at other sectors, like for example in the education sector, Teach First is quite a well-known graduate scheme, and they're very much like, we want to get the brightest minds to come through university before they go off into the corporate world, want them to, or hopefully we can keep them in education, but we want to give them the opportunity to go into areas of high deprivation and try and improve educational outcomes for hard to reach students and people who from lower social and economic backgrounds. I think that's the sort of area where the GEM programme and potentially others like it could really make some big space around. This is I think about my day job, and it's gritty. Do you know what I mean? It's a gritty job, but I think that can be quite a selling thing as well around. This is stuff that it really matters. The things that you'll get involved with in the housing sector. So yeah, massive advocate of the Choose Housing campaign. Like Hony says, it will be a long-term thing, this, but I think there's just around what model can we identify that will grab people's attention, will provide clear career pathways for them into the housing sector.
Great, thank you. I'm going to move us away from Choose Housing for a moment. We will swing back to National Careers Week at the end. I wanted to sort of go back to sort of getting involved with CIH, because the regional groups are not our only way to get involved. We have got the communities of practice. They're run by our policy team, and if you're under 35, then we've also got our CIH Futures group. We also have our mentoring platform, which I know, well, Hony, you're an advocate, a huge advocate for mentoring. Thomas, from personal experience, I know that you've taken full advantage of that. We have a mentoring relationship, which I would describe as very fruitful. I hope you would as well. I certainly would as the mentee. It would be great to hear from you all why people should get involved in any one of these capacities with CIH. Why be one of those active members?
I think I'm a great advocate of mentoring, because as I do, that's my day job now, mentoring and coaching. And I was very lucky to have some great mentors in my life. They shaped my career. Even now, I have a few retired CEOs I can ring and say, I got this problem. How will I get through? And they will help me. And that's where the relationship, isn't it? So I'm a mentor through Housing Diversity Network, as well as the Vish as well. And I did say I'm happy to join CIH as a mentor as well. So I think it's important, not just working in the sector. It's obviously your day job, getting involved and helping to shape the organisation, especially CIH. It's all volunteers mainly helping. I think that's really important. Especially all of us got a lot of skills, different strengths. If you can give a couple hours in a month, what difference that make? I think that's where we need to be thinking. So, and I think it was Lauren mentioned about a lot of people don't understand that things are through CIH is possible. I think all of us need to be being the ambassadors and talk about those forums and the impact. So through, I think it was a domestic abuse forum or something recently started, and it's influencing the policies and things like that. How can we influence the government to make that change? And that is all about, it's in our power is in our hands. So giving a couple hours in a month, I would say, I'm sure everyone can make that happen. So do something, I would say. Do volunteer. I think that's, again, it should be in our part of our life, really, because that's something I enjoy. Because when you give something, you get that satisfaction, especially when you give someone something free.
Yeah, I agree with you, Hony. I was going to say, I think if you can give something back, you get so much reward from it. And I guess it's kind of the same with our board roles as well. I know mine are voluntary board roles for both positions that I have, and it's really great to give back to similar organisations and contribute to the skills on that board. And this is the same, it doesn't matter which CIH group it's with. you're bringing your skill set and your experience, that you can contribute to that group and you can learn from others, others can learn from you. It's really being part of, but also benefiting from that support network, and being able to influence the voice in the local area, like we said earlier. So yeah, I'm a massive advocate for it.
Yeah, totally echo what's been said there. I'm particularly involved in the mentoring through CIH, and I've been a mentor to quite a few people, and I've been a mentee as well. And I just think that like cyclical nature, reciprocation of people helping others to solve their problems, it's just great. And I think that's what's great about housing, is that it's not a zero-sum game industry. You know what I mean? It's not like we're in that mindset. I think everyone just wants to see residents get good services, whether they're the resident of my particular organisation or another. And you know, when you're working with housing professionals as either a mentee or a mentor, and you know that they've got the right value set, you just want to give them your time. And I've had that reciprocated from a lot of mentors that I've had personally through the CIH mentoring program. So I think it's a great thing to be involved in, and I'll put it out here on a podcast. If anyone is looking for a mentor, or you know, like I'm always willing to try and find time in my day to try and help share whatever wisdom and knowledge I've accumulated over the years with other people. And I'm glad Becky, from your perspective, it definitely feels fruitful for me as well. While we're mentoring sessions. So I think it's great program. With regards to the sort of like the specialized groups, I think it's good because there's a one for local authority housing management, and obviously as a local authority housing practitioner at the moment, just knowing that there are ways to access other people who are going to be dealing with sometimes quite specific challenges to particular sectors. There are subtle differences, I guess, sometimes between local authority housing and registered providers. But you know, there's a group there of people who will be able to talk about it quite authoritatively. So I think that's what it's all about, making the membership sort of relevant to the day-to-day housing practice. So yeah, I think it's great that there's so many ways in which to be able to get involved with the institute.
Brilliant. That takes us very nicely to I think a sort of a closing question, because we have National Careers Week next week, at least next week at the time of recording. It would be really nice to hear from each of you how you got into the sector, I suppose your origin stories, and then why you would encourage others to do the same. Thomas, it sounds like did you start in the GEM programme? Did you choose a career in housing and then follow through into the sector?
I am actually going to a GEM event on Monday where I'm going to be discussing my professional journey, but I'll try and deliver it succinctly, because it is quite an unruly story. But basically, I originally left university, and around about where I ended up becoming a primary school teacher. But my heart was never quite in that, but I still wanted to do something of social value. And I stumbled upon the GEM programme, and at the time the GEM programme was at its infancy, and it was a 6-month temporary contract on minimum wage with some personal development stuff tied into it. But at the same time, I did have another job offer for, I think it was RBS at the time, but it was this permanent job. It was paid at a higher level. It was, you know, I was in my early 20s. It was just like there was probably more stability there. But I just thought, no, social values, housing, I'm going to take a risk here. This is sort of where my heart lies. So that's how I came into housing. And my first job in that 6-month internship was I was a welfare reform advisor. So it was early 2010s Welfare Reform Act. Bedroom tax, benefit cap, we're probably all as a society got the scars from that, to be honest, austerity. But that experience was such a good grounding really for understanding housing. We went all the way through from sort of like the welfare benefit side, you know, the housing crisis, just getting a full grasp of the sector. So that's how I came into housing. It wasn't a plan from university. It was sort of a sort of a decision I made, really, that like, I stumbled across it and I was like, wow, that's social values, it's me, I want to take a chance here. And 13, 14 years later, I'm still at it. So that was my story. So yeah.
So I am one of those that fell into housing, partly because I was in a job that was minimum wage and rather boring. And someone mentioned that there was a part-time admin assistant role going at a local housing association, small housing association. So I applied and was successful. And within 6 months, I thought, I don't want to do this job. I want to do the job that the housing officer that's sat opposite me is doing, because that looks way more fun and they get to go out and about and they get to have more of a positive impact on people's lives. It felt like it was a bit more rewarding. And so there was no vacancy for a while. I left and I moved into some private sector roles to try and get different kinds of experience that would lead me back to this housing officer role in time. But the private sector didn't align with my values and I just didn't enjoy it. And so when the housing officer role came available again, I applied and was successful, which I was so happy about. And from there, really, I've just kind of progressed through up until December last year. I was head of service for that organisation. So worked through that organisation in the last kind of 9 or 10 years. And now in my current role, just looking to get a bit more insight from how larger organisations work. So while there's lots of similarities and we all have the same goal, obviously things work differently, which is what I'm getting my head around at the moment. And then, kind of working alongside that with my board roles as well to get that more strategic perspective. But yeah, I love it and I couldn't not see myself working in housing now.
Hi, I probably would say my story if few people heard it before. I'm going to say it anyway. I was born and raised in India, southern India, Kerala actually. I don't know anyone heard about it. It's a beautiful place, very tropical. I never had not even wildest dream to come to London. So I did study. I studied in the native language. It was not English medium school, so speaking in English was not something happened when I was learning. So I did my degree in chemistry and then I did my master's in biochemistry. So I thought I could be a professor, or I could be in university, I could do research, I could be that was my thinking when I went for master's in biochemistry. Then I got married. I came to UK in 93. I hardly could speak in English. I needed a job. My qualification was not accepted here. I didn't know how to find a job. I didn't know about mentoring in those days. There was no mentor. So I didn't know how to ask help. I didn't know how to prepare for an interview. And sadly, it took me 2.5 years to find my first job. And I have my first daughter as well this time. And my first job was through a job centre. They called me because I used to go every week and say, how can I get a job? Even though I had like hundreds of interviews, I was not getting the job. And they said, there's a job going. It's a charity, this place. Would you be interested? That's 2 weeks. Your job is a copy typist. I said, okay, I can use computers. That will do. But I don't know about the speed of typing. I wasn't that sure, which I didn't say enough. But I went for the interview and what they said is your job is quite simple. There's a pile of documents is here. All you need to do is put that into the computer. I said I can do that. Obviously, it would take longer than normal typist, but I know I'll work hard and I'll master it. And I realized after working there after a week, I realized it was a housing association. And I was working with the CEO to help them to put the policies and procedures into the computers, obviously. I didn't even know what that means. And, you know, and they said, oh, occasionally said, oh, can you answer that call? And I said, yeah, I can do that. Or can you do this? Can you do that? And it was very much like, you know, things were coming in my way. I was supposed to be there for 2 weeks, and I was there for 18 months. In that time, it was a sheltered and supported housing provider, very small, and I was working with the CEO. I was learning every day something. And I was really saying, yeah, I can do that. Even if I need to stay until 8 o'clock, it's fine. Even though I have, you know, a young baby. I did make a lot of sacrifice to get the learning. And that's where I found my passion. And the CEO actually told me, honey, I can see your passion in housing. I would recommend you study. And that's where I did. Can't remember, it was a qualification in you know, like a open university, say, you know, into housing. So I learned that, and then working with the customers, I was answering calls. He was not even going to the schemes, and it was because he wasn't the head office. I wish I was allowed to go and see customers in real life. Yeah, there I realized there is a job I want to progress, not biochemistry. I don't want to be a biochemist. And since then, obviously that job come to an end because it was an interim role. I went to become an administrator, proper administrator this time, as a housing assistant, as Lauren mentioned. And I was working with the housing officers, and I said, oh, can I come with you to you know, when they're going out visits? Can I do the sign-ups? Can I come to court with you? So I was very much like, again, I have my second daughter by this time. I was very much like, I want to be a housing officer. I want to know you know, like going out to see customers, and that's where I realized, you know, how amazing the work is happening. You know, I loved it every moment. When I became a housing officer, I was a temporary housing officer. So I worked in almost all the G15, Peabody, L&Q, Hyde, Guinness Trust, in those housing officer days. And I was prepared to travel anyway, because as long as, you know, I can learn, I can, you know, and I did study MA in housing law and policy, going to university in the evening while I was working full time, bringing 2 daughters. And I became housing manager, head of housing, assistant director, and then finally managing director over 3 decades. We next year will be 30 years in housing. And in the last 11 years, I've been working different boards, board member and chair. And yeah, it's all about housing. Now, last year, I decided to set up my own consultancy. And now I give a consultancy service to housing associations, and mentoring, coaching, exec board members, do training. That's my life now. And I'm proud to say the first organization was a copy typist. That's Eldon. That's where I'm chair now. It's such a beautiful experience now. You know, I have the opportunity to shape and change the organization, work with the CEO and the rest of the board, and it's a beautiful journey. I'm really, I would say, is thankful I had that opportunity, and thanks to that CEO who gave me that first job. Otherwise, I would never had the pleasure of working in housing and touch so many people's life. So that's my story.
Wow, Hony, what a brilliant housing story. It sounds like you really took advantage of that sort of peer learning right from the beginning, and sort of making sure that you were taking every single opportunity to learn from the people around you. Amazing. I think that brings us to a natural close. I'm sorry that it does, because I could talk to you all day. But I want to say thank you so much to all of you for being our guests today. Thank you to everyone who will also be taking the time to listen to this. Do keep a lookout for our next podcast, which will be looking at domestic abuse in housing and the role that housing providers can play. But for now, that's all.